Oh my gosh. Welcome back to the Two Cents Podcast. I'm so excited to be here. And can we believe that it's episode 5? Where has the time gone? Yes, five of them.
Cinco,
Five of them.
Cinco.
Cinco. All right, let's dive right into it and let's talk about what everybody is always focused on. It's the branding, the marketing, the sales, but behind every successful CPG brand is an operations engine that just doesn't miss. And that's because they focus on the unsexy stuff, the underrated backbone of scaling, your operations. So, welcome back to the Two Cents Podcast. My name is Brianna Deculus, and I am here with Reuben Bell, my co host. And today we're diving into the topic the operations ground game, scaling your CPG brand without losing your mind or your margin. Reuben, I'm so excited to talk about this, and I'm excited to talk about it with you because oftentimes everyone shares, hey, I met Reuben and J&J commercial. We did all of these fun projects together. But a lot of people don't know that you also spent an extensive amount of time also working in supply and operations. So I would love to have this conversation and just dive into all the unsexy stuff, the boxes, the logistics, the 3PL. Let's talk through all of that today.
Not the boxes,
The
but yeah, you're
boxes.
right. The box, right? Yeah, people forget I spent half of my time at J&J in supply chain and operations, right? And you're right, it's not the sexy stuff, right? But I've my first 9 years was supply chain, doing a number of roles, working in the plant, doing planning, doing operations. Moved to Puerto Rico, and then I ended my career, ironically, on the supply chain side, focusing on e-commerce. So yes, it's the non-sexy stuff, but without it, it's a challenge, right? And you're not going to be very successful. But Brianna, I'm shocked you didn't acknowledge
Y'all,
um, my
I just
my
I
me
kind of
popping
had to
my
look
collar.
over it because y'all know Ruben is always up to something. Every episode he up to something, and today he's wearing a Walmart vest. Like, where did you get this from? eBay? You got that out? Salvation Army? Where you got it?
Listen, no, I actually got it from eBay, but that's not the point. The point is I'm wearing this because I'm super excited, right? In less than 10 or 11 days or so, Walmart's going to release its earnings, and I am excited for their earnings. I've never been more excited for an earnings report in my life. Walmart's doing some great stuff. You see them in the news. While Target is being challenged, Walmart is doing a lot of great things, and I think they're benefiting from it. And so I'm expecting an earnings beat. And so I decided to wear this in honor of my buddy Sam Walton, that is, and just represent a little bit. Don't hate,
Y'all,
congratulate,
it's some
participate,
every.
acclimate.
Here we go, y'all. Every day is something new with him. Today is a Walmart vest. I know he ain't gonna ever wear a Target vest though.
Nah, I'm not wearing the bullseye. Only the Spark Walmart.
Oh Lord.
Bling.
Well, there's always something new with Ruben every day. But what I will tell you is that we have so much to talk about today. And we're going to start with talking about vendor confessions. And Ruben has a wonderful story to share. So, Ruben, I'll let you dive in here and then we'll kind of unpack that story together.
Yeah, certainly. The story that comes to mind is an amazing horror story of a failed launch, right? So we are in the process of launching a new technology on our number one form of product for Tylenol. And the challenge was the technology wasn't quite working well. And what it caused us to have to do is delay the launch. Well, what we didn't process in delaying the launch while we're trying to be proactive and be transparent with our customers is that they were going to double up on the kind of volume that they needed of the old product,
Mm.
right? And that was the challenge. So imagine a facility reducing capacity, reducing ability to make the old product while they're ramping up for the new product. And you still have to build the new product because you're trying to get that pipe volume together. And so it was an ugly disaster for us. Customers were putting in crazy promotions to try to help them bleed inventory while we're trying to really just get our stuff together because the innovation wasn't performing as we expected it to.
I see. I see. So I guess one of my follow up questions for you is what ops support was missing? Like, obviously, it sounds like maybe y'all didn't prioritize or forecast for lead time potentially.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was necessarily lead time. I think you never plan for the kind of contingency that we needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime a launch delays, you delay it, right? And you have the ability with capacity to make some more of the old product.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, we were replacing the number one product in the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
So Tylenol has the number one analgesic position, and so imagine taking the number one product in the number one form and planning to replace it with something that at the time we just couldn't produce. And so the issue was understanding the severity of what a delayed launch how it would impact us and the customers. And I think that was the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
We weren't able to do that, right? And that's what the problem was.
I think the big thing too is no one knows what that magic number is for like overlapped inventory for the as you deplete and as you newly reestablish a new SKU and trying to do that. There is no magic number, candidly, right? I
No,
don't think anyone knows that number for sure.
yeah, you're spot on, right? We have to remember the supply chain and the operations group is a cost center.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're always looking to try to squeeze as much cost out the system as possible. And so there are times when you have to lean in. And when you're leaning in, if things go wrong, there are implications to that, right? And so it was a normal launch, right? It
Yeah.
was the biggest launch for us at that time, but it was a normal launch. What you do with launches, you bleed down inventory of the old
Mm-hmm.
and you ramp up inventory of the new. In this case, the new just wasn't coming, right?
Okay, I am so excited. We have to pivot and start to talk a little bit about beyond the barcode and what the myths versus reality is for these CPG founders and what's overrated. What are those overrated things that founders really waste their time on versus prioritizing operations and helping their brand
Yeah.
scale?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what they do well is they measure twice and cut once, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're focused on the budget, the media budget. They're focused on the promotional discount. They're focused on the right claims. All those things are critical to get the attention of the consumer, right, or the retailer. So I think those are things are smart. Where they fail is understanding the role lead time plays into driving that success, right? They're not processing when they need to have the signal to activate what normally is 6, 10 to 12 weeks of inventory to get that process started again, right? That contract manufacturer has to contact the carton, bottle, caps, and cup supplier. They also have to contact those raw material suppliers. And all of that has to work in synchronization to make sure you have product available on day one so you don't run out of stock. And so, look, for me, it's the big takeaway is your best availability, your best ability rather, is your availability. And the consumers, the suppliers need to understand that so that the consumers are able to really take their product away from the shelf and not have those gaps, which cause them to look at other suppliers.
Absolutely. And that's definitely the key to success, particularly whenever you're in e commerce, right? When you think about Amazon and Amazon's flywheel, to your point, if you are not available, you are not in stock, then you are not discoverable. So very quickly, you're not only losing sales, but you're also losing relevancy. And I think that that's the key. The
Yeah.
marketplace is all about consistent relevancy. How do you continue to build that? And granted, whenever you're launching a new product on a particular platform or retailer, there's going to be times where you drive yourself out of stock on that retailer, but that's how you gain and grow your run rate and how you start to build your orders. And also, the algorithm has to learn you. So, you're going to have times where you go out of stock at a retailer. You can't bank on what your launch run rate is to be your actual run rate. You have to
Ongoing.
always have a larger buffer to help you with that lead time. So, I definitely echo your sentiments there. And I think it kind of ties into the overlooked operation disciplines that most brands really miss when they're trying to scale. And oftentimes, what impacts these brands to not be able to scale but to stall is these large gaps of going out of stock. You're running, and then you hit this brick wall, right? And then you fall
Yeah.
down, and now you're trying to stand back up and dust your knees off. By the time you do all of that, there's three new brands that have entered the marketplace. And
Yeah.
while you're waiting, I don't know, what is it, 6, 8, 10 weeks sometimes for it to get a new
Yeah.
inventory run, right? I mean, that's more your realm than mine. But
Yeah. No, you're right.
I
You're
mean,
absolutely right.
You do
Right.
that, and in that time that you've been MIA on the marketplace, now these three new brands then took your consumers, right?
Yeah.
And also your relevancy that you just built up, and it was all of the marketing dollars that you've been investing have now all of that has depleted in effort. And so I think the big picture here and the real reality of it all is that it always starts with operations. If you're not in stock and if you're not discoverable, then you're not available to your point. And you can't even continue to add the fuel to the fire. The 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 flywheel won't keep flying, right? All of those things won't keep moving. And so I think that that's key. And when we talk about reality versus myths, that's the real reality of it all. The lead times matter, and your best ability is availability. I love that. I think we might need to coin that. We might have to put that
Yeah.
on one of our little 2 cents coins.
Let,
Um,
let, let, let trademark. Let
yeah, yeah,
trademark.
yeah, I like that. I like that. That might be a T-shirt or something.
No,
Well,
you're
look.
spot on, right? And I think to support everything that you said, right? Like the that overlooked discipline in operations is planning.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get it right. You're not going to be perfect when it comes to forecasting and planning. But if you have the right intention, you'll start to see enough data. You start to see enough signs to help you better predict when you need to pull those levers, right?
Yes.
When you need to call that contract manufacturer, when you need to know that a promotion or a deal or some of your marketing campaigns is going to drive a little bit more than the normal run rate.
Yep.
So you're in position to predict that and anticipate what might happen so that you can do those reorders. And so focus on planning. If you do nothing else, focus on planning and forecasting because you're going to get it wrong, and
Right.
that's okay. But if you're putting a proper discipline and approach to it, I think you'll find that it'll help you be more successful in the long run.
Absolutely. And I think that this ties back to something that we've alluded to in the past, which is when to say when and when to say no, right? And so as you're planning and you know what your lead times are, you also got to pick your hand up and say, I'm not there yet, right? So if that's taking on another retailer or putting yourself in another marketplace or joining the social commerce realm, any of those things, right? Those are all fun, sexy things to do. Everybody wants sales, sales, sales. But if you haven't planned for that yet, it's
Yeah,
important that you say, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to say when. And that's okay too. And
that's okay.
I think that that's the part that, you really got to take home with you today as well.
That's key, right? The takeaway from all you just said, right, is it's okay to say no,
Yes.
right? It's okay,
I might
right?
put
And I
that
think
on a
people have to
t-shirt
understand
too.
that. Listen, this T-shirt don't look like graffiti, right? Your best ability is availability. Just say no.
Just
Me
say
too
no is gonna
movement.
be look, just say no gonna be on the shoulder side. So I can just show my shoulder whenever.
I love it. 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 I love it.
Well, look, we've
I
been
love
given
it.
a lot of our 2 cents, and I think it's time to go to the My 2 Cents segment, the favorite
Mm,
part that
mm,
we love to do and bring back. This is whenever Ruben
mm.
starts preaching, this is whenever I start dropping gems, and usually it's a lot of fun. And so I'm going to let Ruben lead this. He found an article that talks about retailers trying to get a jump start on tariffs. Now, I'm sure you don't even know what that means, so let's go ahead and take a deep dive into that.
Yeah, so I saw an article and I posted it,
Mm-hmm.
right, where there's a number of retailers that are trying to preempt the tariffs, right? So what they're doing, the similar to what suppliers do when I'm sorry, similar to what retailers do when a supplier takes price, they're pre-buying inventory from overseas. So
Mm-hmm.
they're increasing their inventory so that they can get it at the lowest cost before the tariffs kick in. And so if you think about that from a P&L perspective, there's a lot of implications for that. Now there's a lot of money tied up in inventory, which means that's less money to invest in innovation or invest in R&D, right? But it also means less profit because you have dollars tied up into non-working capital for you in the short term. And so I'm just curious, right? I'd love your 2 cents on what the implications are going to be, how retailers might react to suppliers as a result of that, either short or long term. I have a point of view, but I'd love your perspective.
Yeah, so this is funny. And actually, the retailer I work on currently, Amazon, is doing this as we speak. So we are seeing really, really large waves of POs come in across the books, right? from everything from beauty to health to first aid, you name it. They're all feeling it. And what we're seeing is they're trying to get ahead of this, but in the same breath, now they have to store more product because the actual sales rate is not picking up. So where a desired retailer, particularly Amazon, would always have 2 to 3 weeks of inventory, they're holding like 8, and it's a bit shocking actually. What I'll say is in the short term, everyone's excited. Oh my gosh, I'm outpacing my forecast. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. But in the long term, we're gonna go through those ebbs and flows that we saw a lot during the pandemic, right? Where they were stocking up on inventory and then they stopped ordering. And then you're gonna almost get little to no POs, right? And
Yeah.
that's to be expected, right? That's what normally happens. What I also see to possibly be true is Amazon, particularly, they love bulk buys. And when bulk buys come around, they ask for discounted inventory because they want to buy a lot at one time. So now that these brands start to take these price increases, and those price increases will get accepted by these retailers, right? But the retailers is going to turn around and they're going to wait until they're almost at no inventory at all. They got a week of inventory left, and then they're going to come in with a bulk buy and say, well, I'll buy 6 more weeks of inventory, but I need a discount. And then that brand is going to have their feet to the fire where they're going to have to really make a decision on, well, I don't want to run out of stock. And so do I discount my price to the retailer and give it to them almost to the same price that they were once buying it prior to that price increase? Or do I chance going out of stock for a period of time? I see that to be in the horizon. I call something like that happening in the near, like 3 to 4 months easily. Um, and then the other thing that I'll say, and I want your reaction to this as well, is gonna be, um, you know, I see that there's a real opportunity that everyone is just hoping and playing like this gambling game of, well, maybe the tariffs will be gone in 3 months, maybe it'll be gone in 6 months, maybe it won't really stick around that long, so maybe these brands will be willing to do a price reduction and go backwards. And I feel like that is potentially something that we could also anticipate, but I want your perspective on that in particular.
I think so. I love your first take in terms of discounted bulk buys, but
Mm-hmm.
I am 100% in the camp, and I believe what's going to happen is because to your point, the demand hasn't changed.
Nope. It's actually
I
slowing down.
believe
It's actually
it's
softening.
it's slowing down because of consumer confidence, right?
Yep.
But to your point, that inventory is impacting the books now, is
Mm-hmm.
impacting the P&L now, is impacting shareholder reports now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I believe that there's going to be a lot of pressure on suppliers and founders to discount product, to do more promotions, to
Mm-hmm.
discount it, to bleed that inventory because right now that inventory is sitting on their books
Yep.
and sitting on their books makes their books look bad when it comes to these shareholder reports, right?
Yep.
And so I expect, and I would tell founders, and I would tell any small brands or any big brands, right, to expect the request for call it longer prime days, longer big promotion days
Mm-hmm.
for customers or promotion weeks from customers, because they got to get that inventory off their books, right? That's the worst kind of investment. It's dead money, right? Sitting on their books and inventory that they can't spend or ship today.
Yep.
And so I agree 100% with that second piece, that there'll be a lot more requests for promotions. But I love your first take. Your first take was pretty interesting, right? Never thought about the inventory bulk buys for a discount.
Yep.
I don't know how much the founders think about inventory bulk buys at discounts for small businesses, but absolutely the promotions are going to hit them.
Yep.
They're going to definitely want those promotions, right? If they were doing 10% off, look for the 15-20% off request, right?
Look, I tell
Because
you
they got to
this.
bleed it by any means necessary.
I tell you this, as we prepare for Prime Day, the discount request is getting steeper and steeper. I mean,
I can imagine.
in my time on Amazon, I've never seen promo requests this high, and the funding
Wow.
per unit cost astronomical. So, absolutely agree with you. I think you hit that spot on as well, and it's going to be a really interesting end of Q2 beginning of Q3 for me. Like I'm
Yeah.
really interested in seeing like what Amazon's shareholder reports look like, interested in seeing what Walmart's looks like, interested in seeing what Target's looks like because they all usually do a big promo around Prime Day now. And as we all
Yeah.
know, these promotional times are lasting longer to your point. They're all about 4 to 5 days. So we're looking at a week of promos and they're trying to just get deeper and deeper and deeper with these promos. And so
Yeah.
in that,
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really interesting to see when these promotional weeks hit for their actual quarters. And I want to know how many of them clear this promotional week by before the end of Q2 because I think that that's the true game changer. And so it's going to be a really interesting Q3 to go back and look at some of these
Yeah.
earnings reports for sure.
Yeah, look, you're spot on. I think the takeaway is what's the implication of the actions to retailer margins, right?
Mm-hmm.
The inventory buys are going to impact their margins in the short term, and so therefore they need to offset that. You offset that by asking your partners to chip in. The way that they're going to ask them to chip in is to your point, inventory buy discounts or steeper promotions, right?
Yep.
Because the retailer is not paying for that in most cases; it's the supplier. So look, I'm getting my popcorn ready. The month of May and June are going to be exciting because I'm going to be doing more, reading of shareholder reports as if I'm reading what's that movie, The Hobbit novels. Uh, I'm going to be reading a lot because I'm looking for the fine print. I want to
Yeah.
see what they're calling as the reason for their beat or their decline, and
Mm-hmm.
the word tariffs is going to pop up a lot,
Yep.
right? The word traffic is going to pop up a lot.
Yep.
The word investment is going to pop up a lot. And so
Yep.
I'm looking for those three things, and I can't wait to do some of those comparisons across some of those major
You
retailers.
know, the last thing I'll say, because we could talk about obviously, you got to make sure that you have your operations right. You got to make sure that you have but the one thing about this environment particularly, and it's never easy to launch a new brand, like right, because retail is always going to be busy. There's always a lot of chaos. There's always a lot of noise. This is probably particularly a really hard time to come in and launch a new brand. I would say the only benefit of launching a new brand right now is you could go ahead and come in at the cost that you need it to be at versus trying to get a price increase in. That's about
Later on,
that's about
6 to 8 months later. No, that's a good point. That's a good
right.
point.
Right. So whenever I just think about launching a new product, launching a new brand, and particularly this environment is going to be really, really hard. Probably in the next couple of months, I would assume, until we are able to see are the tariffs here to stay? Are
Yeah,
they hanging around for a while? Or is this just a wave, right? And
yeah,
I think a lot of people are trying to figure that part out of the conversation as well.
yeah. But here's what I would tell you though, right? Like you can't make launching a brand decision around tariffs, right?
Right.
Let's be clear.
Right. That's
It's a
fair.
it's a hot mess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yep.
There's a lot of nervousness. There's a lot of unknown. Here's what's known. This administration is temporary. It's a long temporary, but
Yep.
it's temporary nonetheless,
Yep.
right? And so you have to build a brand with the fundamentals from the ground up. And if you're focusing on the foundational elements and levers of your building your brand, then I think you'll be okay, right? I think you just have to figure out what are the contingency plans in the short term that help me navigate through this chaos that we're in.
Yep.
But the
Absolutely.
best way to do that is go to Walmart.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
I
Well,
thought you'd appreciate that.
of course, as always, it's always going to be an Amazon versus Walmart fight over here. But look, I
No,
think
I'm not fighting Amazon. I like Amazon. I just like Walmart better.
okay, like versus love. I understand. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. It has been an eventful conversation today, and we're so excited to come back with you guys for episode 6. We have another really great conversation, and we're talking about the blueprint. We're talking about the blueprint.
The blueprint,
So,
absolutely.
yes, we're excited. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And also, thank you to getbranded.com for being our sponsor. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. Deuces.